Oversight under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, license number 170952, registered with the Nationwide Mortgage Licensing System and registry number 813B544. Broadview Mortgage, equal housing lender. Remember, if you never want to make a house payment again, except for property taxes, maintenance, and insurance, that's 800-566-2475. That's 800-566-2475.
This is Dick from Carpet Masters. Carpet Masters has been serving the Inland Empire for over 60 years. We are locally owned and operated by the Stevens family. We not only clean carpet and furniture, we clean many loose rugs, including Oriental rugs. Oriental rugs are cleaned in our modern facility where the fringes are cleaned by hand, then hung in our modern facility to dry. We do not use steam cleaning to clean your fine furniture. Furniture is cleaned by hand using the same absorption cleaning used in the White House. Some furniture we bring into our plant to clean properly. We normally use 2 men on each cleaning job using the extraction method. There is nothing that will clean carpet better for our customers. Our job is to clean properly with quality first. Google Carpet Masters San Bernardino and give us a call, or go to carpetmasterssocal.com.
Erin here from On the Brink Morning Show, where we talk about all that is engaging in the Inland Empire. News, politics, business, family, things to do, and so much more. Join us weekdays from 6 to 7 a.m. on KCAA 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, and 1050 a.m. or on KCAAradio.com.
You're listening to KCAA, your good neighbor along the way.
And now, it's For the People with Judge Herb Dodell.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to For the People. It's become our custom and practice to say why it's called For the People.
Why, Judge, why?
It's because it's for the people.
What about the aliens out there, like me?
You know, we haven't been recording any of the aliens, but you never know. We're hitting it off with those spaceships out there. They could be coming back.
I'm telling you, I'm going to fly away when they do come back. I'm getting off this planet.
Are they going to look like E.T.? I'm not really sure.
Go home, phone home.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I listened to the last 10 shows, believe it or not, because I'm doing an index. So if anybody wants to go on the website and want to pick one show as opposed to the other because they're all different subject matters, they're going to have an index. So I was listening to them all. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Absolutely.
Now that I think about it, I'm really enjoying it, actually. So I want to mention that because each show is really separate, we talk about different things every week.
Yes.
You know, one week it's criminal, one week it's small claims, one week it's how the system works, one week it's a spiritual guide. We try to mix it all up so that there's a nice blend, and it's not always the same. And I get all that input from you. I get these interesting questions from you.
Well, thank you. I got an interesting question.
I'm
but first of all, what's the website before we get into my question?
Oh, the website is judgeherbdodell@gmail.com.
That's your email. What's your website? I said.
Oh, website.
That's what judgeherbdodell.com.
Yeah, I think it's judgeherbdodell.us.
Okay, well, you just look up Google Judge Herb Dodell if you want to check out his website and check out the shows because they're all archived there. That's very cool. You're doing some.
That way, you know, everybody can pick a subject that they like if they're really interested in one particular thing.
Yeah.
Like sexual harassment.
Yes. Speaking of that. Speaking of which.
You were speaking about that before we went on the air.
Not that I've done any sexual harassment in my entire life. I can honestly say, thank you, knock on wood, that I've never sexually harassed a woman or been accused of sexual harassment. or abuse in my entire life.
I don't know about that. It depends on your definition.
Well, this is what I want to ask you. Okay. I'm a single guy now, again.
Yes, we heard about your wife in the restraining order last time.
Well, no, I've been dating that was 15 years ago, whatever. But I've been dating women, and I dated a beautiful woman that actually painted this studio. And now, I don't know, now we're friends. We're in the friend mode. We were in another mode, now we're in the friend mode, which is very cool. I don't care. That's fine. It's all good. The bottom line is this. I'm a single guy, and I like going out and partying, and having a good time, going to bars or whatever, and hanging out. So let's say I go to a bar, and I rose this question today on my show, Control Chaos, which is on 8 to 9, Monday through Friday, on KCAA. And I was like talking to Jigga Jones, my partner in crime and guru of the ghetto. And I was like, listen, Jigga, if I go to a bar, okay, it's completely changed. The whole dynamics have changed. If I go to a bar and I meet this beautiful woman, and we're hitting it off, and we're having a couple drinks, and I'm buying her some shots of tequila and stuff like that, and we're getting friendly, and you feel the vibe. You know how you feel a vibe with a woman and stuff like that. What's the definition now of sexual harassment? I want to find out if I can get arrested for it. This is a serious question for all you guys out there, or ladies too. Could turn the other way. Let's say, I'm meeting her, I'm talking to her, and blah, 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 and I put my arm around her, okay? Or I put my hand on her knee. Can I get busted if she pulls away? Like if I put my hand on her knee and she pulls away and goes, "Why did you do that? And how dare you do that? You're sexually harassing me." Is that sexual harassment? And can she actually call the cops and have me thrown in jail? Yes or no?
Maybe. It's a definite.
Wow.
Maybe. It's a definite.
Wow,
maybe.
that sucks, man.
No. The point is, you have to get into the question of consent. All of these sexual harassment cases that are going to be coming up. And we were talking about Gloria Allred a little while ago.
Yes.
All of those cases that she has, they're going to range from probably putting a finger on a knee or around the shoulder versus going to a place privately in a hotel room. The facts are going to be different for every one of these.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
In a bar.
I'm asking in a bar.
Drinks.
I'm having a drink, and we had a couple. We're talking for like half hour, 45 minutes, an hour.
Well, you put your time in.
Well, I put my time in. I even put my money into this. Okay,
it's an investment.
It's an investment. So
I'm only playing. I'm only kidding around.
No, I take it
seriously.
No, I take it seriously. This is very serious. I'm talking very serious because I am a single guy and I like going out with beautiful women. And back in the day, the way you could sort of feel a girl's temperature of how she felt about you was either A, put your arm around her, or B, put your hand on her knee. And if she didn't move your hand on her knee, you're like, all right, she sort of likes me.
Yeah, the next step is moving up.
Well, whatever. I'm saying that's fine. I wouldn't go there, but I'm just saying, I know touching the breast and touching the other parts of her body are completely different, a different connotation. But if I put my hand, let's say I meet this beautiful woman, I'm going to probably go out tomorrow night, and hang out after, whatever. I'm going to go out a little bit tomorrow night. And I meet this woman, and I put my hand on her knee, okay, after we had a few drinks. If she pulls away and goes, "How dare you just sexually harass me, I'm calling the police."
You say, "I'm sorry," and you move along.
Okay, but let's just say that you're a little buzzed, okay, and you're like, all right, whatever, F you, blah, blah, blah. And you still stay at the bar. Because some guys are like, all right, whatever, F you, but goodbye, later. Can she actually call the police and say, "Hey, he touched my knee. I thought he was going to move up a part, into my private area. She could lie and say, "Oh, he touched my breast." What? Can you get arrested for that, Judge? Yes or no?
You could get arrested depending on the degree to which you have physical contact. If you just put your hand on her knee and she backs off and takes your hand off of her knee, that's not going anywhere. The cops are not even coming out for something like that.
You don't think so?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Because they're too busy. If they did that, every single bar would become part of the beats. They start over A and you end up at the bar.
All right.
No, I think it's a matter of every one of these is going to be a matter of degree.
Okay.
And it's all going to come down to the same basic one word: consent.
Okay, so listen.
Even Harvey Weinstein. I don't know a lot about the facts of all of these cases, but I got a pretty good idea what was going on because I was in that business.
Right.
The reality is that those circumstances may have led to a more reasonable allegation than you're sitting at a bar and putting your hand on somebody's knee or putting your arm around someone. is that going to get anywhere? Not really, because remember, when you prosecute a case, and I was a prosecutor, so I really do remember it, you want to be sure you're going to win your trial beyond a reasonable doubt to a moral certainty, even if it's a misdemeanor. And it could be a misdemeanor, it could be a felony, it could be depending on the degree of things. And so you say to yourself, okay, what's my chance of winning this thing if I got to go pick a jury?
Yeah.
With a male jury, chances are 0.
Yeah, but I don't want you to have to face that. I'm just saying
the likelihood of you getting arrested is slim.
All right, that's what I'm asking. What I'm asking. Unless you're belligerent and you're drunk in public type thing.
It's all about degree and consent.
Right. Okay.
It's the same thing with speech. People think that you could say whatever you want whenever you want to say it, because you have the right, First Amendment right to say what you want.
Well, I know that's not true.
And that's generally it is generally true.
Yeah.
You can say lots of things. You can even encourage people to violence. It's all protected by the First Amendment. But there does draw a line.
Right.
There's an old case that goes back. It was the Neer case, Neer versus Minnesota, many, many years ago, where Justice Holmes said free speech doesn't allow you to yell fire in a crowded theater. And there are limits, and every case is different. Now, the way it works in terms of filing criminal complaints, just in case you haven't heard the show that we did about criminal law, there's a filing deputy. I was a filing deputy in Inglewood. What would happen is I'd sit behind a desk, and the cops would come in, parade in with their reports and whatever they had, and they would tell me why they thought we should file a criminal complaint against ABC, whoever it was. And my job was to ask them questions to see whether or not we would win this thing if we had to go to trial. Nothing looks worse than filing a case you can't win.
Right.
People always used to ask me the question when I was a DA. They would say, well, what's the chances of you getting moved up the chain? Instead of being in West Covina, maybe they move you down to someplace else. And it depends on win and lose.
Yeah.
You keep losing them, you're going to be in traffic court.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that I can at least still make a move on a beautiful woman without being arrested. That's
It depends on the move,
Well,
Gary.
I'm just grabbing her knee, for Christ's sake.
Grabbing is not a good word to start with.
Touching. All right, we got to take a break. We got to take a break. It's for the people with Judge Herb Dodell.
1050 AM, KCAA.
Herb Dodell is a lawyer and a judge for the people. Having served as a Superior Court judge, presiding over more than 9,000 cases, he has witnessed firsthand how complicated and corrupt the legal system can be. His goal is to show how things really work in the legal system so that people can navigate the legal system in the best way for them. Many people often feel marginalized by the legal system and are uninformed about how to proceed when unfortunate circumstances arise in their life. Judge Herb will pull back the curtain, lift the veil, so people can truly understand their rights, have access to top legal personnel that they can trust, and have knowledge about how things work so they can make better choices. Judge Herb isn't just knowledgeable. His integrity and spiritual values are truly what make him different. He cares about democratizing access and information for all and desires to turn on the light so the people, you, can benefit. For more information, email the judge at askjudgeherb@gmail.com. That's askjudgeherb@gmail.com.
Okay, welcome back. We were just talking off the record. Oh, we don't have a record here. Why do I keep saying that?
This is
It's
off the record. It is off the record.
But I kind of remember a story back when I was in college in Pittsburgh. I had a fraternity brother who was a really crude guy. And he was a kind of a ladies' man. And we were walking down the street one day, and some very pretty lady was walking the other direction. He stops her. And he says, how would you like to? And he uses the F word.
How'd you like to F?
Yeah, so
Wow.
She walked away. But I said to him, Jeffrey, his name was Jeffrey. I said, Jeffrey, don't you get slapped a lot? Yeah, I get slapped a lot, but I get laid a lot too.
Well,
So
there you go.
that was, I guess if you don't ask, you're not going to find out.
Don't ask, don't tell. You're never going to find out.
No, but it's different now.
Yeah, it is.
The environment is so different.
Totally.
Things that were being done for many, many years by many, many people, including people like Steve Wynn and others who have been accused of it.
Yeah.
This went on for many, many years, but nobody ever said anything. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's saying something.
It's like an avalanche.
Well, the question really is how many of them are true and how many of them are added on or embellished because of emotions and feelings and egos.
Money, too. Lots of money involved here, Judge.
Yeah, a lot of people got paid off.
Please, lots of money being involved.
But you look at the people that are getting charged now or being accused, there's a lot of dough there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And a lot of these cases are going to settle, even though from a reality standpoint, the statute of limitations is probably run on most of them.
Now, let me ask you a question on this. The statute of limitations. I know criminally, it's there's a certain amount with this stuff. But what about civil? Is that civil?
Same thing. There's a civil statute of limitations. It may be different than the criminal one,
right?
But there's a civil statute of limitations for assault and battery. That's an assault and battery. Sexual harassment, if there's a touching, is a battery. If there's no touching and it's just verbal, then it's an assault.
Right. Well, that's what I'm asking about the knee thing. See,
each of them is a crime.
Right. That's why I was asking about the knee. The knee's touching. So, but you're saying that they probably won't do anything if you touch the knee.
I think the chances are slim that anybody's going to do anything.
Man, but even if you slim is bad. You know what I mean?
No, but realistically, if you're talking about doing something in a hotel room,
well, that's
then
different.
the argument will be, because I did criminal defense for a lot of years. The argument is going to be, you know what?
She's up there.
I invited her up. She knew what I was going to do.
Yeah.
She came up on her own. I didn't push her. I said, hey, honey, how about whatever it is? Or here, take this Quaalude or whatever Bill Cosby told him.
Right.
You know?
Hey, you want a roofie?
Well, the bottom line is many people will do
want
many
some pudding?
things. Many people will do many things to get what they're looking to get.
I know.
And the longer it takes, the more frustrated they get, the more that they might do or say. And the facts and circumstances are different. If I was a woman and concerned about any of that, I would memorialize everything, walk out the room. It was 11:04. It was in room such and such and such and such. I went up there. He told me, I want to show you my folios. I didn't know what he meant by folios. I found out later on. My concept of folio is not the same as his.
Right.
And the reality is, and you go report it.
Well, nowadays, too, with the phones, I mean, you could videotape it or audio record it and stuff like that. So it's completely changed.
Oh, you know what? I think I mentioned it during one of the shows. I know I did, actually. But I try not to be redundant because not everybody listens to every show. So some of the stories will get repeated here and there. And the reality is people are bringing their cell phones into court. I'm sitting looking at cell phones.
Well, Baldy did that to me.
Yeah, well, but I've seen some interesting things.
I bet.
I'm amazed how illiterate this country is.
Oh, it's totally dumb.
You read some of the text. I say, what language are we talking about here?
I call it dumbification of America.
Well, the reality is that I saw this one case where she was claiming that another party was threatening her. It wasn't a sexual harassment case. It was another lady. And the text that was sent was this lady sitting on the floor with a beer can in one hand and a gun in the other.
Whoa.
And it was a restraining order case. Well, I granted that one.
Of course.
And took the gun away. Not that I personally went out there and picked it up, but they're supposed to. The rule is, and it's in the order, by the way, that you sign, which makes it an enforceable order that can be enforced with contempt or arrest or both. And so...
but they had to give up their gun.
Within 24 hours.
To the sheriffs or whoever?
To the sheriffs, or they could sell it to a licensed gun dealer.
Okay. Right.
But they have to then file a document with the court within 48 hours saying that they've done that and attesting to the fact that they brought it down to the 77th Precinct or out to Lost Hills Sheriff's State, whatever it is.
What happens if they don't?
It's a violation of the order.
And what, they get arrested?
Yeah.
Wow. Pretty heavy.
But there's one problem. For those people who are out there who are practical, all of you, nobody ever seeks to enforce it. The chances of getting somebody pulled in for not turning over their gun, unlikely unless the victim goes to the sheriff and says, look, he's got a gun. I know he has a gun. He showed it to me. Has he turned it in? No. I want you to go out and get him.
I mean, seriously, Judge, I mean, nowadays, I mean, I would go to the sheriff's department and do that. I mean, people are so nuts nowadays. I mean, it's scary.
You read what's going on. You know, you don't have to be a genius to figure it out.
Well, you hear what happened at that car wash in Pennsylvania, your neck of the woods.
No.
Where this guy was jealous, I guess, of his ex-girlfriend, and he gunned down 4 people, including his ex-girlfriend, at some car wash in Pennsylvania on Sunday morning. Just gunned him down, and for no reason.
Well, just
because he was jealous.
I think I mentioned it during one of the shows. I was a call-in, actually. It was from somebody who called in about gun violence. Now, I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I think everybody should have a gun, unless you're not capable of handling a gun properly. And I had suggested to a senator, friend of mine from many, many years, we know each other 50 years, that we should set up a national database of all restraining orders, because every restraining order has this order that we sign. I mean, it's bindable, and it should go in a national database. If somebody is selling a gun, they have to look at the database. If there's a name on there, that's the person standing across saying they want to buy an AK-47, they say, wait a minute, you're on the list. If you sell it and that person does something like mows people down at the car wash, the seller is equally legally responsible, civilly and criminal. It's called the felony murder rule. It developed during, I think it was a bank robbery with somebody sitting in the car, the getaway car.
Right.
Equally liable.
Why don't they do this? Why is it is it the NRA? Is that what it is? It's like
I'm not political, so
I know you're not, but you can at least tell the truth here.
I think there's a big. In fact, what they said to me when I was in Washington, and I had this meeting, and I met with Senator Schumer's assistant and Senator Gillibrand's. They said the same thing. In this environment, this Congress, the chance of getting any kind of legislation through at all is slim, because there's such a resistance from the NRA. But I was saying they shouldn't object to this.
Exactly.
They should like this law. We're not saying take guns away from people unless some neutral judge who has no interest in the outcome other than the protection of the public has found that this person is unstable and shouldn't be walking around with a gun, because they're liable to do something. It's not like everybody in the street has to do A, B, and C. We're talking about a select number of people, a select group of people who have a proclivity to do something, and we want to catch it in advance.
Yeah.
And, you spout off and you do all those kinds of things, you're a risk. You shouldn't be walking around with a pistol.
Well, look what's happening in our society. I mean, this stuff's happening, it seems like every week or two.
I think it's going to get worse.
Of course it is.
Because there's nothing really being done to enforce it. Anybody who's a felon can't have a gun. And you see all these people who get busted or whatever, they're all felons. They got a gun from somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it's the black market, I guess, right?
Well, it's also I was talking to a lawyer this morning about the domestic violence. Even though I was certified in family law, so I could do domestic violence cases, and that's where they're heard, as opposed to the regular restraining order court. There's a lot of going on in these marriages that are not working, or not even marriages, relationships. And if some judge decides that there's a real potential between these two people who once may have loved each other, you got to do something about it. The question he asked me this morning was, what if it's a TRO, and does that go on your record forever? I said, the answer is...
What's a TRO, by the way?
Temporary restraining order.
Okay.
That's the first process generally that you do, not necessarily in domestic violence cases, although it's available in that remedy, in that forum also. You're coming in and you're saying, I want immediate relief. Immediate relief. And they bring the papers into you, and you're sitting in chambers. You don't see any bodies, or you don't talk to anybody, and you read it, and it looks like something horrible. So you sign a temporary restraining order. It's only good for up to 20 days.
Yeah.
And you have to set a hearing right away to hear the issues, so you can't drag it out. But the problem is, his question to me was, does it go on CLETS? CLETS is the California Law Enforcement Technical Communication System. And the answer is yes. And it stays there.
For how long?
Ever.
So hold on. So when my ex-wife filed a bogus restraining order against me or whatever, it took me to court. When I went to court, do I have that on my record now?
You probably do.
Oh man.
I've always suggested that there be some kind of
that's
some
such
kind of
bull s.
Well, there's a certain procedure that's done to expunge criminal records in California.
I mean, I was 90 miles away.
Well, I know
this isn't fair.
No, but the bottom line is it
so
shows as a temporary restraining order, but when the hearing took place,
right,
and it was not granted on a permanent basis, it would show that the motion or the petition was denied.
Okay.
So, but it still shows that original TRO being granted, and there are people who will say, well, if there's smoke, there must be fire.
Man, I'll tell you.
But I was suggesting.
That is so cold, man.
Well, I was suggesting that we have the same kind of expungement statute to take care of TROs upon petition of somebody to show there was no merit to begin with. You should be able to expunge the record, but it's not. And unless somebody changes the legislation, and I always encourage people who listen to the show or otherwise, talk to your assemblyman, talk to your senator, talk to whoever it is, see if you can get them to introduce legislation to change some of this.
How can I find out if it's up there or not? How do I go about doing
Public
that?
record.
Public record. What? Go to court or what?
No, there are procedures to get public records.
Do I have to
I
go?
don't know how to do it because I've never done one.
Right, I'm gonna have to
But
figure that.
if you want to find out what's on the public record, you can do that.
I don't even want to know.
You know what? There are investigators that are out there. That's all they do is they search public records.
Yeah.
And it costs you maybe $100, whatever. And
I have a friend she's a private investigator. I dated her 25 years ago. Maybe I'll have her look it up and check it out because I think that is so wrong. I mean, it's just so wrong, and that's what I'm talking about.
We're allowed to modify restraining orders whenever there's a petition to modify it. We can cancel them in the middle of it, usually for 3 years.
Yeah.
We can do a lot of things, but it still doesn't change the fact that there is a record.
Oh, it's just.
I want to talk about the federal system.
I wish I never would have given her the $50,000 now. All right.
You were so cheap. If you had given her more, then what happened?
That's all she asked for. What are you talking about? All right.
She wasn't a very good negotiator.
I was just better. All right. It's Judge Herb Dodell for the people. We'll be back with more after this.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM, KCAA.
In his book, From the Trench to the Bench, Judge Herb Dodell demystifies the legal system, including both civil and criminal, the lawyers, the judges, and the process. As a judge, former deputy district attorney, and criminal defense attorney, he knows the legal system. He has the inside information that you need to pick a lawyer, and he's here to give it to you. No matter what you're facing that makes you think you may need a lawyer, Judge Herb will shed valuable light on your situation and reveal your best options and many secrets of how the judicial system actually works. To find out more about how the legal system really works, you can get your copy of Judge Herb Dodell's eye-opening book, From the Trench to the Bench, at Amazon.com.
Okay, welcome back. That's a very interesting subject, and it's very current. A lot of people are going to find themselves in situations like this.
Absolutely.
Whether it's at the bar or it's at some resort or at someplace, these are going to come up now because it's a hot subject.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know some of my friends who are singled out are just like, man, how do I approach a woman now and stuff like that. They're afraid. They go, I'm not even gonna approach any women anymore.
Well, the reality is, and I'm not suggesting that people do this, everybody's got these cell phones. You want to make a pitch, make it on the phone. You know, it's standing right there. You got a record. Look, all I said to you.
Record it?
All I said to you, honey, was, how about going out for a whatever?
Should you videotape it and all that?
Actually.
You probably should, huh?
In reality, if you're looking at things from a trial standpoint, and remember, I was a trial lawyer for a long, long time. From a trial standpoint, that's great evidence. She says, he told me this, that, and the other thing. And you play the recording and it says, I love you madly. Can we go off into the sunrise? Whatever it is, that's great evidence.
Yeah.
Looked like the lady that brought in the picture with the beer can and the gun.
Right.
That's what convinced me. The dialogue and a story wouldn't have done it, but the visualization. Look, and even in civil trials and in any kind of trial, demonstrative evidence is what does it. Blowing up, I don't mean blowing up literally, taking an exhibit and making a big size and putting it on the Elmo, which is the machine that he's shining against the wall.
Enhancing it, yes.
Absolutely. I've told you about the shtick with the broken glasses and over the. You got to do that kind of stuff. That's what gets people's attention.
So
remember one thing. That jury does not want to be there.
Right.
You start with that premise.
Right.
And the longer you keep them there, the less they like you.
Yeah.
And I tell clients all the time. Just recently, I said to somebody, I said, keep it simple. Yes, it's in a piece of information, but the more of that you put in, the more you distract from the main point where you're making. They say the best cross-examination is one question. The best.
Yeah, because you don't want to
He's your son, isn't he?
Right.
No, or something. Whatever it is.
No, it's my father.
No, but the point is, if you're looking to attack credibility,
I hear you
want to spend hours trying to say. One of the things I'm going to tell the folks out there today, you're going to have an expert in a trial. If you're in a trial, civil trial, criminal trial, most of the time they're experts, more so in civil than in criminal. And you need to attack that expert because that's who's opposite your expert.
Right.
And so if you try to take that expert on in his or her field of specialty, they're going to eat you up, generally, because they know more than you do. Even if you specialized your whole life in medical malpractice, they know more than you do. And so the best way to attack an expert like that is on interest, motive, and bias. Okay, Mr. Jones, I noticed that you've testified in 406 trials this year, all for the defendant. Let's see. Let me count that up. How much did you make per show?
How much do you charge?
How much did you charge for your appearance? For your How much
your appearance fee?
How much did they pay you for your opinion? And the objection is, I didn't pay him for the opinion. I paid him for his time or her time, whatever it is.
Of course.
But the bottom line is, you want to attack that expert on credibility.
I like the appearance fee. How much is your appearance fee? It's like a showbiz thing.
I said to him in my book, to do an expert with a medical expert, even in an arbitration, which this was an arbitration, they're going to charge you $5,000 for the morning. For the morning. For a day, $10,000, $15,000. If you can't afford it, or you have a lawyer who can't afford it, it is ultimately going to come back to hurt you. In fact, that's why some of the big firms do better, and it is better to go with them than with a sole practitioner, because they have the money.
Yeah, but how if you don't have the money? That's the problem.
Well, you have to hopefully get somebody to take it on a contingency and be willing to pay for it. But that doesn't happen if your case isn't big enough or it has warts on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But warts on it.
Right, I dig it. Well, everybody should basically tape everything, video, audio, with your phone, unless you have a flip phone like I do, and you can't do anything like that. But if you have a regular phone, tape and videotape and tape your audio and tape your video, right?
Look, with the mechanical things that are going on right now, you probably don't even have to hold the thing in your hand.
You're right.
You just kind of say, okay, this is 9 o'clock, and do it.
Yeah.
It does take a little out of the romance.
Well, that's okay.
It's like getting a prenuptial agreement.
It is. Oh, yeah.
Hi, honey, let's get married next week. And by the way, my lawyer wants you to come over to sign these documents.
It didn't help me any either.
Because you're not getting anything.
The prenup didn't help me either, by the way. So
but in some cases, a prenup makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah. I had a lot of stuff at that time.
And, you say to yourself, I met this girl 6 weeks ago, and she's loving my lifestyle, and I got all these assets. What happens if 3 months from now she decides whatever?
Right.
Even though a 3-month marriage isn't going to get you much in the way of support, 10 years, by the way, is the magic number. You stay together for 10 years, married, you're looking at lifetime support.
Yeah.
So,
I thought you were going to say lifetime sentence.
In some cases, it's probably worse.
It is.
At least if they lock you up, you don't have to deal with it.
Right.
But prenups have been around for a long, long time and do make sense. Except it does take the romance.
It did. It sort of did. I remember when I dropped it on my my ex-wife, and she was not happy about it at all. But I had a lot of assets, and my dad left me a lot of stuff. He had just passed away like a year before. He left me a lot of assets, and I wasn't going to just marry somebody and have her leave me a year later and have to go to court and fight for my dad's belongings. And that's why I did it. You know, she wasn't very happy, and it does take the romance out of it.
Well, you know what? When I got married, my wife was 23.
How old were you?
38.
You dog.
Hey, these days
cradle robber.
I actually got a prenuptial agreement.
You did.
I did. I'm married 40 years.
That's awesome.
And I ripped it up.
You did.
Oh, I absolutely.
After what year?
Not too terribly long. I realized this was the woman of my dreams.
That's awesome, Judge.
And there was no, to me,
That's
there was
beautiful.
no issues. I had a little, but I wanted her to have whatever
That's
I had.
beautiful. Well, that's
so
good.
I ripped it up.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that other people haven't got it stored in the box someplace.
Right.
Waiting for the day.
I didn't even use mine. When I got my divorce, I just said, "What do you want?" She's like, she gave me that number, 50,000, and I gave it to her. I literally gave it to her a month after we separated, and then we had a divorce about a year later. It was very nice and clean, and it was a good break. But I didn't even use the prenup. I didn't even throw it.
I made a little ceremony out of it, actually. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, did you have a little bonfire in the back of your place?
I think I just did a little ripping it up and tore it into little pieces.
You showed it to her and ripped it up right in front of her.
You know what? I think
Honey,
this is
I
gonna
love
work.
you. Hey, kid, I love you.
But now, after 40 years of being married, it's just an interesting discussion.
That's awesome. Hey, let's talk about because Trump, and he's got the State of the Union tomorrow night.
That's going to be interesting.
And I guess some of the Supreme Court judges, I guess Ruth Ginsburg's not going to be there, and some of the congressmen aren't going to be there and stuff like that. But he's appointing a lot of federal judges and state, and all this. And I just was wondering, does that matter to somebody like me, the federal judge? I mean, these appointments and stuff like that. I know the Supreme Court does matter, the appointments there, but does a federal judge really matter?
Oh, actually, they matter more than the Supreme Court.
Why is that?
I shouldn't say more than.
More?
Because the Supreme Court only hears a very, very, very tiny amount of the cases that are brought before it. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I'll throw out a couple of terms. It's called a writ of certiorari, meaning they're willing to listen to the case because it presents a federal issue or it determines some constitutionality or lack of constitutionality of statutes and things of that nature. But the most of the stuff is being done in the circuit courts of appeal. In fact, I'm going to try to get a hold of an old friend of mine who was the presiding judge of the Circuit Court of Appeals in Washington, see if I can get him on the show.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, he's still sitting, so I don't know if he would be willing to do it. But I'm going to call him. And the reality is that the decisions that are made there, everybody's entitled to an appeal. It's not discretionary. And so the decisions that are made by that three-judge panel, usually it's called three-justice panel, every now and again you'll get what they call en banc, E-N-B-A-N-C, meaning the whole panel. You could be 22 justices, depending on where you are. But they make an enormous difference. They're deciding interests that have effects nationwide.
Okay, so
even though a decision in this circuit, this is the Ninth Circuit,
yes,
is only really valid in the Ninth Circuit. But if you go to another circuit like the Second Circuit in New York, they will look at rulings in other circuits.
Right.
So if there's no ruling in the Second Circuit that's close to what the issue is, they might just follow the Ninth Circuit decision. Ninth Circuit, very liberal. Some circuit courts.
That's here in California.
Yeah,
Ninth Circuit.
Right.
Okay.
Many courts, especially lately, are heavily conservative, and they're in the South. And so,
no kidding.
you might get an entirely different result.
Right.
But
right.
now, what's happening? Look, every president has done the same thing. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, back in the day, tried to pack the Supreme Court. It's famous. If you read anything about history, and I was a history major in college, when you read anything about history, they try to pack the court with all the liberals. They were pushing very progressive social legislation at that time, welfare and Social Security, and he was packing them with liberals, liberal Democrats, of course.
Yeah.
And then when you got to Reagan, everything switched over. They were looking for people who were conservatives. And it depends on what the Senate decides to do, whether you get in or you don't.
Well, I mean, usually the Senate passes.
Not really. There was a guy named Bork.
Yeah, well, Robert Bork, who was actually connected to Nixon, right?
Well, I don't remember this.
Yes. Details. Oh, come on. We know about
there was
Nixon,
another one, Hainsworth, the same thing.
Yeah.
They didn't get appointed.
Yeah.
Usually they end up getting appointed.
But look at Clarence Thomas with that thing with Anita Hill and all that.
I can't believe that he got by. I really can't.
That was crazy, wasn't it?
I can't believe he got by.
Yeah.
Given the testimony from Anita Hill and all of the facts that were really basically undisputed, I'm surprised he got by.
Do you think nowadays with all this sexual abuse and sexual harassment, do you think he would have got nominated in this day and age?
You know, that's a very intelligent question.
Because it was the Coke can thing, if you guys don't remember, with the pubic hair and the Coke can and all this weird stuff.
I don't remember the details, but I tell you, I think your question makes a lot of sense. My opinion is he probably wouldn't get by today.
Right? He wouldn't.
Probably not.
So we have a Supreme Court justice that's sitting on the Supreme Court making decisions for our whole country that probably in this day and age would not be appointed.
Probably not.
Right?
It's guessing.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is he doesn't ask questions. If you follow the Supreme Court, he rarely asks questions. Rarely.
Really?
Yeah.
What, does he just sit there and listen and then make a decision?
I have no idea what he does.
Wow. He drinks a lot of Coke. I know that.
And then without the hairs.
Without the hairs. But, we don't know that, Judge. Well, we're not sure about that. That's hearsay.
Who knows what's going on in chambers?
That's hearsay.
But you notice, you mentioned Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's not retiring for one reason. One reason only. She doesn't want to give Trump another appointment.
Absolutely not. She's got to hang on.
She's 84.
I know.
And she's going to stay there until they take her out.
God bless her. Stick on.
And probably Breyer will probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference between the federal system and the state system. I personally, after being in both of the systems for many, many years, I don't like the federal courts. They're too rigid. The judges tend to become dictatorial, even though they were terrific people when they were out there among the troops. Now they got this position.
Power.
And when you go into a federal courtroom, you know you're in a federal courtroom. It's so magnificently designed, and they come out. It looks like they're the king.
Yeah, it's scary.
Or the queen.
Yeah.
And they will say things. I'm going to tell you after the break a couple of true stories about federal judges that wake you up to the idea that you should settle cases all the time.
It's For the People. Judge Herb Dodell will be back with more right after this.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM, KCAA.
Did you ever meet a lawyer that was for the people? Someone who had the best interests of the people at heart? Herb Dodell has been a lawyer for more than 50 years and has been a Superior Court judge for 9 years, having presided over more than 9,000 cases. In this show, he will reveal the secrets of how things really work in the legal system, so you can maximize your position and benefit most when you're in trouble and need someone on your side to simplify the process for you. For more information, email the judge at askjudgeherb@gmail.com. That's askjudgeherb@gmail.com.
Okay, welcome back. Like I said, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about two federal judges. I'll even mention the third one without mentioning his name because he's still on the bench and he's to be feared. You know, anybody who's practiced in federal court in L.A. County knows who I'm talking about. He's mean and nasty and rude and arrogant.
So let me ask you a question before you get into these stories. What's the main difference between in state court and federal court?
Well, federal court judges are appointed for life. And that's always been a source of debate, whether or not it's a good idea to have somebody there for life because they don't have any real risk of losing their gig, you know? State court judges are either appointed, elected. All the federal judges are appointed. You don't elect the federal judges. And that includes the bankruptcy courts. That includes admiralty courts. There are other federal courts as well. But it's pretty much political.
Okay. That's what I wanted to get to.
Look what was just happening not too long ago. There were appointments suggested. One guy had never tried a case.
Yeah.
Hadn't been in the courtroom, I think.
Oh, my God. Did you hear that? Did you hear the hearing?
They were going to make him a district court judge in Arkansas.
I knew more about the court system than he did.
Well, not only that, but they asked him some questions about basic concepts of law he didn't know.
Right.
That's who's getting appointed. Because I'll bet you that judge has got some nice qualifications as to what his political beliefs are. That judge was there to carry the word, and that's the way it works. But this judge, first judge I'm going to talk about, was a very nice man.
Okay.
I knew him when he was a Superior Court judge. If you appeared before him, he was a very, very nice, bright guy. And I had a case for a wonderful couple. They were terrific. They had a water damage claim in their house, and it was a solid case in the insurance company, as insurance companies will want to do those days, turned his claim down, their claim down. And I was representing them, and it turned out into the federal court. The way it generally works is a concept called diversity. Diversity means if I sue you and we both live in California, then the case is going to be heard in the jurisdiction here. There are some exceptions to all of this. But if I sued somebody else who lived in California or outside of California, then as long as you were in it, there's no diversity. But if there's diversity, it has to be heard in federal court. So lawyers will find somebody local to stay out of federal court to make them part of the complaint.
Right.
And that's generally what we do. I was thinking about it the other day. We've got to bring in somebody. So who are we going to find? Let's get a defendant here who's local. Otherwise, you're in federal court. So anyway, this judge, good guy, gets the case. And we make a motion. A motion is a request of the court for relief. They get too complicated to talk about quickly in the course of just a few minutes. We made the motion, and the lawyer on the other side was one of the lawyers that I read about all the years with no integrity. This was the guy. And he would destroy docket. He was not a terrific guy, but socially fabulous. We got along great. We used to hang out, actually. We fought like banshees, but
in the court.
We got along very well.
Okay.
We tried
outside
3 cases.
Of the court.
Yeah.
Of the court.
But the judge didn't make a ruling. And he was trying to close his file for the insurance company, and I was trying to get my clients paid. And it kept going and going and going. So I would call him. I'd say, Tony, let's make a request that he hear this motion so we can get on with this. We did that together because nobody wanted to be the one guy to say, we want you to act. Because if you're the guy that's asking him to move and the other guy's not, you don't want to have that possibility that he's going to pay you back for it.
Right.
So we jointly made motions. Jointly. And it went on and on and on. How long did you think it took?
I have no idea.
9 years.
9 years?
9 years.
Oh, my God.
And you know how what happened was I got a call from the clerk one day, and she said, we were in his name was Harry Hupp. We were going through Judge Hupp's belongings now that he's no longer with us, and we found your case on the file here. What are you going to do about it? I said, well, it's 9 years have gone by. People are not going to remember a lot. I have no idea. So I called Tony, and he said, what are we going to do with this? So we arbitrated it.
I mean, after 9 years?
9 years.
That's crazy, Judge.
Then we had the lady in Orange County who's now passed away, and I don't miss her. She granted a motion because she said she couldn't read the expert witness's report, which was typed up. And it was transmitted by electronics. So the other side had a perfect copy, and so did we. She just wanted to get rid of the case.
Yeah.
She did it all the time. And
is she still sitting?
She's lying now.
Oh, she's lying. That's right. I forgot.
As far as we know.
It's lying. Okay.
Or she's up there somewhere.
Let's hope she's up there.
I hope she's not deciding cases. I can't read your writing. You go to hell. But that's what she did.
Wow.
She basically threw the case out. It was a multi-million-dollar case.
Wow.
Took 2 years to go to the Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circuit, to get it reversed, and they reversed it. This is what she did. They have basically unlimited power. Very few ever get impeached. They just stay on, and they can stay on forever. And they do. They stay on forever.
Of course.
And this other guy, I was only in front of him one time, this federal judge. He's a senior judge.
Is he alive still?
Yeah, he's still sitting.
He's still sitting?
Yeah, he's still here.
Where?
As far as I know, downtown.
Downtown?
As far as I know. But if you were on the wrong side, you knew it. I had a case in front of him. I was on the right side. He screamed and yelled at the opposing lawyer and insulted him and everything. It was embarrassing.
I mean, judges are not supposed to do that.
No, but they do. They absolutely do. I told the story about the guy, the student, not the student, the young lawyer that came in. He asked him for a state bar card, and the guy said, "Why do you want my state bar card?" And he said, "Because I don't think anybody would ever give you a license. You're incompetent." And he said that in front of 40 other lawyers sitting in the room. You know how that kid must have felt?
Well, I mean, the other lawyers must have felt that way too for the poor kid, right?
We all knew what we were getting.
Right.
I called it form shopping. You have a right to challenge somebody. I saw a case a couple of weeks ago where I saw who the assignment was. I said, get rid of him. You don't want to be in that guy's courtroom. This guy's awful. He's going to make rulings that are going to turn your hair silver. He's awful.
Don't they have like some sort of commission or overseers of these guys?
Judicial commission.
Right, and then what happens?
You can make arguments and you could call up and complain, but the fact of the matter is, rarely does anything ever happen. Very few of them ever get kicked off, especially the federal judges. There was once a lady who used to come in pink shorts and whatever. They did throw her off.
Pink shorts?
Yeah,
was she hot?
I don't remember. I think I was seeing her toward the end. But she was famous. She was famous. Everybody knew who she was.
Yeah?
She wore like hot pink, and she was a little strange. I don't know what.
Underneath her robe, she wore hot pink shorts.
I have no idea. I wasn't getting into molestation cases those days.
Oh, Lord.
What would I have said to her?
Oh.
Nothing. But the fact of the matter is that this is a crapshoot. We have an appellate process. There are various courts. In the federal court, it starts in the district court. Then it goes to the Circuit Court of Appeals. And that usually is the end. And then you can petition the Supreme Court. That's the federal system. The state system, you start in a trial court, generally, civil cases. Criminal is basically the same. It's an arraignment court in criminal. You basically start in the trial court. They make all kinds of rulings, and there's lots of motions and trying cases and whatever. And then it goes to either the Court of Appeals. Those are for felonies and for cases that are worth certain amounts of money. And then there's what they call the appellate division, which hears misdemeanors and certain things like unlawful detainers and otherwise.
That's if you appeal it.
If you appeal.
Okay.
And then there's something called writs. A writ, W-R-I-T-S. A writ is a request for the court to take immediate action before there's an appeal. The chances of winning those go by a scratcher.
Slim's out the door already.
Not very often.
Yeah.
Like if you lose in the Department of Motor Vehicles, you can take a writ to say that they acted improperly, like the 3-hour rule.
Yeah.
If you
with
have
the DUI. Yeah.
If you can prove that they didn't take the test for 3+ hours, you should win that in the DMV. And that's why I suggest if you have those kinds of issues, that you do talk to a lawyer, because they're going to know about it and you're not. And it's the same thing for other areas of a DUI case. But that goes up in appeal as well. And you don't know where that's going. And if you lose there, same basic situation. You have to petition the Supreme Court for a hearing.
California Supreme Court.
California Supreme Court. They grant probably less than 1%. But they must grant it on death penalty cases. It's mandatory.
Yeah.
That one doesn't go to the Court of Appeals. That goes directly to the Supreme Court.
And those never get overturned.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Well, once in a
No.
When's the last one that got overturned that you can remember? There's none.
Oh, you see people.
Hold on. By the way, there's no death penalty here, is there anymore?
There is.
There is.
Yeah.
Are people been put to death in California?
Not lately.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's a death penalty, but it never is used.
Well, if you look at what's going on with legislation now, they plan to use it. They're going to expedite the appellate process because most good criminals, not good criminals, but those who are sophisticated or have lawyers who are sophisticated, ran what they call writs of habeas corpus, which is bring up the body. That's the Latin for it. And they'll string that sucker out for years and years and years. They could be grandparents by the time that they ever execute him, if they ever do. And they don't.
Yeah, they don't. They never. I don't remember an execution in the state of California. I can't even remember.
I think William Bonin was the last one that they executed.
Oh, okay. I remember that guy.
I think he was the freeway killer or something.
Yeah.
But they were doing it. Now they're trying to expedite the process so they'll be able to carry out more executions. They'll be selling tickets.
Of course. And then there'll be appeals, and then there'll be a whole thing on these guys, and then lawyers will get famous because they're the lawyers of these criminals and convicted murderers and things like that.
Well, but in the federal system, they have a death penalty too.
Yes, I do know that.
McVeigh was executed.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the Rosenbergs were executed.
Right.
And there's been a bunch in between. Not too many.
Not too many, but yeah.
But the feds have a death penalty also.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's all about jurisdiction, removing the cases to the federal court if you can. A lot of insurance companies want to be in federal court. They're much more rigid. The rules are much more tough, and they can grind you out. So a lot of the questions deal with what court are you going to be in. Depends on the facts, depends on the law and where you are. And we'll talk about that in another show because that's a subject in and of itself.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much, Judge, for allowing me to still put my hand on a woman's knee. Thank you. God bless you.
Stay with the knee.
That's it. Just the knee.
Okay. See you next week.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
I'm Tom Busby, CNBC. ExxonMobil says over the next 5 years it wants to increase oil production in Texas and New Mexico and even build some new manufacturing plants in the U.S. using $50 billion it expects to net from those corporate tax cuts. On Wall Street today, the Dow took a tumble down 177 points, its worst day this year. The Nasdaq down 39. That follows a sell-off in shares of Apple on reports that it's slashing production of the iPhone X, cutting it in half because of weak sales. Coffee giant Keurig Green Mountain is buying soda giant Dr. Pepper Snapple. That deal could be worth as much as $21 billion. Some bad news for the upcoming spring housing market. Mortgage rates jumping this week. They're the highest they've been now in 4 years. And some Republican lawmakers are donating contributions received from casino billionaire Steve Wynn to charity. That's amid sexual misconduct charges against the now former Republican National Committee finance chair. Wynn denies the allegations. CNBC.
My number 2 does not look like a number 2. I don't know what to call it. Is there a number 3?
Table for 4, please. Anything close to the restroom.
A middle seat with these stomach problems? That's my fear of flying.
Sound like you? If it does, you could be one of the many people with a digestive condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. Even if you don't know what EPI is, you might know the symptoms. Frequent diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain. If you have even just one of these symptoms, you could still have EPI, because not everybody experiences EPI the same way, which is why it's so important to open up to your doctor about all your symptoms. And the good news is, EPI is manageable, so don't keep a lid on it. Go to identifyepi.com, complete the symptom checker, and use it to have a conversation with your doctor. Don't keep a lid on it. Visit identifyepi.com. Brought to you by AbbVie.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. A classified memo reportedly detailing abuses of FBI surveillance will be made public.